What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm Gomez Calhoun.
Where have you been?
Hey, well, you know, if they can recast Gomez Calhoun as a Hispanic actor, I can play him too. So there you go.
Or maybe they recast Diggs as a Hispanic actor.
Oh,
Who knows?
I'm Diggs, and I'm very sad then.
Tell me something, Diggs.
Let me tell you how it all works.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Of course, we're here discussing two more episodes of Sliders. This week it is Lipschitz Live and Mother and Child. So, getting into our first episode discussion. The episode is Lipschitz Live, written by Keith Dameron and directed by Jerry O'Connell. This originally aired on November 30th of 1998.
A 10-year-old Weebelo Scout at Ashland, Kentucky, revealed today to be a clone of Adolf.
Excuse me.
The boy claims to have no political aspirations.
Hey!
He says he just wants
Can't you see I'm in the middle of the show? Well, excuse me, I thought you worked here. I do.
Great. So, we would like a room, please.
Oh, who wouldn't? Well, actually, we would like a suite. Sold out.
Sold out? You're never sold out.
People keep saying that, but we are. No rooms, no suite, and we're running out of ice. Okay, look, actually, we're looking for some friends of ours. Oh, who is it?
Okay, they may already have checked in. Could you please check the register? We're looking for a Quinn Mallory.
Okay, Lipschitz Live is back on the air.
No. Oh, there's a Colin Mallory. Yeah, room 412. You can use the phone over there.
Great.
Right.
Thanks for,
Okay,
whatever.
all right. Oh, man. Oh, this guy he's crazy, man.
When the vortex meets the RF-saturated airwaves of the Sliders' next dimension, it goes haywire and slides our group into several different locations, leaving them mere hours to find each other and regroup before the next slide. Luckily, this world is obsessed with TV. One show in particular, in fact, called Lipschitz Live, which airs 24/7, is actually the only show on TV and is watched by just about everyone, including homeless people who have cable hookups so they can get their fix and be up on the latest Lipschitz lore. Quinn, pressing his story of being a slider, decides to go on the show, hoping his friends will see him and make it easier to reunite. Meanwhile, Remy and Maggie have found what appears to be our Colin Prime, but actually turns out to be a double, who is not only the heir to one of the biggest media corporations in this dimension, but is also slated to marry the daughter of a rival media company, thereby merging the two companies together, similar to how members of the Mafia join various families and criminal underground organizations, making a stronger network. Eventually, Maggie and Remy realize their mistake and head back to the Chandler, where Colin Prime has just went through the wedding ceremony but has been avoiding the consummation. The bride has already figured out this is a different Colin but doesn't care because he is actually a nicer man than her Italian stallion Colin. Seeing Quinn on TV, Colin Prime convinces her to help him get to the studio with Maggie, Remy, and Italian stallion Colin close behind, having also seen the show. Our sliders reunite on stage, and much to the viewing audience's glee, they slide out.
Be self-reliant and multiply.
Well, thanks, Artie. Same to you. Sit down and get a life. Okay.
Mr. Potts' claim, and let me see if I get this straight, folks. Mr. Potts' claim is that he is not really here at all.
I am not here at all.
Ooh, he is a pan-galactic traveler who can project his image anywhere in the cosmos. Good. Love the suit. Okay, our next guest. Bring him on with a warm welcome is Mr. Quinn Mallory, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, come on.
Oh, man, look, I know that guy. I was rude to him.
I'll be damned. Ooh, he's a good friend of mine. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Mallory is a slider. Is that right? He slides between those parallel dimensions. Is that right?
Yes, Barry.
The guy is an obvious phony.
Well, why do you say that, Potts?
He's a media grabber. He's in it for the 15 minutes of fame. Look at him. He doesn't even have an outfit.
Hey, no, yep. Come on, he's got a point there. He has a point. Mr. Mallory, tell me, when you make these slides between parallel dimensions, do you slide in your street clothes?
Yes.
Okay, so our reactions. He's given us a bit of trivia, just a bit.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of a changed concept from what they were going to do. Originally, the idea, which he gets this from Temporal Flux, of course, over at Dimensions of Continuity, or dimensionofcontinuity.com. Colin was not supposed to be just another guy, like another double. Colin was supposed to originally be a clone of Quinn and a Cro-Mag plant. They came up with the idea, I guess the Cro-Mags were going to clone Quinn, and have him, go along with the group and track him that way as well. So that's the original plan. But when we had a Colin double show up, it was like, well, we can't do that anymore because he was supposed to be a unique character. And Mark Zickrey had planted all these ideas in the episodes about why Colin was a little bit different. And you mentioned it even when they sort of just happened upon Colin when they got to Amish World. He just happened to be right there. And that was supposed to be part of the thing that had said, well, something's not quite right with Colin. He just sort of showed up right there at the exact, entrance when they slid out. His odd quantum signature from the Alternateville horror episode was also another little thing that they put in there to say that Colin's not quite like everybody else. So that was the original idea for Colin to be a clone.
Interesting.
Interesting idea. But then see what happened was Zickrey first got along with Peckinpah, but then as things became more strained, basically, Peckinpah and Bill Dial said, you know what, F him, we're doing it this way. And they threw a double in, which made it they probably could have still done the clone idea, but they abandoned that idea after that. Now, going along with that, originally what was going to happen when they got to the slide cage was they were going to break through that and get separated, and Quinn was going to meet his parents, and they were confused because apparently they had never left him with foster parents, and they didn't know Colin. They didn't understand who Colin was. And Colin, Maggie, and Remy, are having a separate adventure, and that's when he reveals himself to be, a plot of the Cro-Mags. They had apparently also plans to show that they brainwashed Amanda Mallory to give Quinn the false information and the microdot, which, again, we said that was very convenient, that his mother just shows up, and she has all this information. She has this microdot. So all these things, was they were trying to plant in there to do this other overall arc of Colin being a clone when they just wouldn't get to realize that in the end.
Wow, that's very intriguing. I never would have picked that this episode of all of them would have had some sort of crazy subplot of Cro-Mag
exactly.
clones and all this crazy stuff.
I kind of wish they had gone this way. I'd like to see how it actually all played out in the end. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. There are some other little deleted scenes, nothing major. Again, we couldn't find these. They didn't have them listed on dimensionofcontinuity.com because they're not real life-changing differences between the script and the final aired version. So in the beginning, Colin, our Italian stallion Colin, has a different intro because he never sees Colin Prime take his place. Instead, Italian Stallion Colin hides in a room for smokers in that world, so he doesn't get to see Colin actually get taken by the bodyguards or whatever. Quinn leaves Hal the bartender before learning about more of the alt history of the world. The Maggie slap, when she slaps Italian Stallion Colin, was unscripted. They just threw it in there. And then finally at the end, probably the biggest thing, at the end, Roxanne says that she won't marry Italian Stallion Colin because she says she's already married to an alien from another dimension. You know, of course, being all sensational on live TV.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just minor little things here and there. Nothing too story changing or anything.
Interesting. No, I like it. That's a lot of old stuff that they ended up cutting. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think we have enough time. Maybe just enough to do a quick impression. What do you reckon?
Let me check the clock. Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. Let's do
right.
it. Cue the music.
Remy and a Hick are on Arturo Live.
I was utterly perplexed. I had never seen a wormhole go unstable before. Because of this world's extensive television system, the RF radiation was emitted in the EM spectrum, totally threw off the magnetic anchoring point of the wormhole, therefore sending us into a state of spatial flux. Did I mention I met the female version of myself?
The audience gasps. Hey, did you have sex with her? Hey, did you? The audience cheers. Well, did you?
And scene.
I think now we know why Quinn gives the scientific explanations.
Exactly. That's a good one.
All right.
It's just bird watching.
Oh my God!
Seems to me your father and MacArthur Mallory are most insistent that this consummation take place.
Are you hurt?
Only my pride, and maybe this ankle. I'm sorry to have spurned you. I hope you're not insulted, believe me. It's nothing personal. I think you're very beautiful. And any man will be honored to merge with you.
You really are different, aren't you?
So I've been told by more people than you realize.
Look, I'm sorry to have put you through this, but you just look so much like him.
And then you believe me?
Well, I'm not sure I buy this whole parallel world story, but I have never known Colin Mallory to turn down sex, and I've never seen him display the sort of feelings towards his father that I have seen in you.
Then will you help me? I have to get somewhere and I haven't got much time.
What's your hurry? Stay with me. You know, being rich is a pretty good deal.
But I'm not your Colin.
I know, but I like you better. You're very sweet. You're much like Colin was maybe 8, 10 years ago.
I'm flattered. Unfortunately, I think you might find me inadequate. Not very experienced.
I was counting on that.
Okay, so getting into our discussion of Lipschitz Live. Something, just to change it up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The vortex opens in 3 different locations.
Yes.
Quinn exits in an alley, Colin's in a different alley, and Remy and Maggie are up on a building window washer scaffolding.
Yes.
Now, this was super confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because I remember thinking like, oh, they're going to give us an explanation for this. And then by the end of the episode, I was like, wait a minute. Why did the vortex open in 3 different locations?
Right, yeah. It took them a while to get to it.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I went back and went through the episode again, because, you know, I go through a second time, I get clips for the show, that I decided I was going to pick out the scene of Quinn on Lipschitz to do for our quick impression.
Right.
That I realized that is the point that they explain what happened.
Right, exactly.
It's just the TV signals.
I mean, overall, like this whole episode, not really a whole lot happened, so it's easy to miss that because it's not like a huge plot point. You know, like you said, they just explain it off on the TV show, and at that point, I mean, when he's on the TV show, it's played for laughs more. so you don't really pick up on it right away.
I guess I'm glad that it had something to do with the Lipschitz TV show.
Right.
But, in the explanation, it's like you heard in our quick impression there. The RF radiation that is emitted on the EM spectrum. And he talks about the extensive television system. Like, it's one TV show. I mean, sure, a lot of people watch it, but at the end of the day, it's only one show. So
Right.
how extensive is this television network? Is it just to say that more people have TVs?
I wonder, I think it's like more TVs, more antennas, that type of thing. Like, I don't know if they're thinking like cable. I think because we're thinking cable, or were they thinking antennas? Because didn't they focus a lot on that, on the antennas and the, I don't know. That's what I was thinking, just because there's so much of that.
But, it's the weird concept of this episode is that everybody's just obsessed with this show, Lipschitz Live, which is just really just a talk show.
Yeah.
Hosted by this guy, Barry Lipschitz. And he just has people on.
Mm-hmm.
He has guests and he talks to them. And somehow everybody is obsessed with this for whatever reason.
I mean, it's like, it's basically like a Jerry Springer type show. If you remember who Jerry Springer is, because I remember, watching it from time to time. I was never obsessed with it, but a lot of people were, and there were tons of those types of shows on at the same time as well, different hosts and whatnot. So I could see where, this might take over. Maybe not to the extent that they did in this episode, but still, I could see where they're going.
Yeah, but, having the vortex open in 3 locations, I think was interesting. It sort of saves them having to come up with another reason why everybody has to be off doing their own separate things.
Exactly, yeah. Now, this Lipschitz, I'm trying to remember, again, if I've seen this episode before. I assume I must have seen it back then, but I didn't really remember a lot of it. All I remembered was the actor who played Barry Lipschitz, who I knew from another show called Silk Stockings. Did you ever watch that show?
No.
When I watched it, it was on the USA Network, and it was always late at night. And the reason I was pulled in was because I was a young man. The credits had like a scantily clad close-up of a woman, like in the dark. And I was like, well, this looks interesting. Let me check it out. I'm sure there's a lot of good plots here. It was like a cop show type thing, detective show or whatever. But yeah, they always had some, at least in the episodes I saw, they had some scantily clad women in the actual episodes. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. But that guy, the actor, played the captain in that show, Captain Lipschitz. So, they got that from there. Also, David Peckinpah and Bill Dial worked on Silk Stockings. So it's kind of like, they're matching up their worlds there.
Right, just doing a bit of bringing one universe into another universe kind of thing.
Right, I mean, who knows? Barry Lipschitz could be a double of Captain Lipschitz from Silk Stockings.
Exactly.
We don't know.
Interesting. I like that bit of background.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have all the sliders split up. Remy and Maggie are up in the scaffolding. They got to pull themselves up. I'm not sure, but is this the first time that, the vortex has opened, so high in the air? I mean, I guess there was that last episode of season 3 where it opened, in the sky and they fell down into the beach.
Right.
Into the water. But, yeah, I don't think it's ever opened, super high like this before, right?
Yeah, this is pretty high, yeah. I don't remember either.
But fortunately, there is that scaffolding there, so they're all right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they see Colin heading for the Chandler. But it turns out that the Chandler is booked out.
Yes.
Quinn shows up first. All the rooms are booked for a quote-unquote corporate wedding. I think it's cool, too, that they sort of keep letting us know, how long is left. Because Quinn gets to the Chandler, and he says, me and my friends have to catch a flight in 2 hours. So we know, it's only 2 hours. And then later on, he just says it's an hour 45, an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So on and so forth as the episode goes on. So I kind of like that, just a bit of a ticking clock aspect of it.
Yeah, it makes sense because, he's worried. They don't even know where each other, they don't know where they are. So they're freaking out a little bit. How are we going to get back in time? We don't know how much time we have. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good length of time, 2 hours to get back together. I think it sort of says, it could have easily have just been 2 minutes. It could have just been super short, and then they would have missed the slide because they're not together. So, 2 hours is a good time. It's enough time to get done what they need to get done. At the Chandler, I actually really like the character of the guy at the desk.
Now, the guy at the desk is actually supposed to be Gomez Calhoun.
Really?
Yeah, he is cast, like if you check IMDb even, he's cast as Gomez Calhoun. They didn't get our traditional Gomez Calhoun of Will Sasso because, well, first, remember, they moved from Vancouver to L.A., so Will Sasso, I guess, was based up there, and then when he moved to L.A. later, they wanted to get him for this episode. However, since he had more success, and was on Mad TV then and just doing better for himself, his price went up. And they're like, we can't afford him anymore, so we need to get someone else. So they replaced him.
Wow, that's really interesting. I kind of wish it was Gomez Calhoun. That would have been great to just sort of have that tie back in.
A different guy.
I do like Will Sasso, but yeah, I think the guy that they got there, I think he's very funny.
Oh,
his reactions,
funny.
Especially because, he's supposed to be obsessed with Lipschitz.
Yeah.
So that's all he does is he watches the TV and sort of just doesn't really care what's going on. But as the other guys come in, he already knows how to react to them.
Yeah, we don't have any rooms. Can't leave a message. It's very funny. I could see if Will Sasso had played it, I don't think he would have played it the way this guy played it because he's a different actor. This guy was kind of a little bit more sarcastic, whereas Will Sasso would have played it more for comedy, a different way, like more. Because you remember how he played Gomez Calhoun, very goofballish, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, so it definitely would be a different type of scene. But yeah, I like this guy; he was really good, and he does show up. This guy does show up again as Gomez Calhoun in a couple more episodes.
Well, there you go. I'll have to keep an eye open for him.
Yes.
But, we were making the joke at the beginning there about Diggs, but maybe this other guy, the bartender, is our replacement Diggs. He was also pretty good. I didn't mind him. He's funny talking about his clicker and all that.
Yeah, I liked him much better than Diggs. And again, the mention of continuity just tells you about what happened to these certain characters, and Diggs is another one that just sort of fell by the wayside. Even iReactions mentioned that David Peckinpah and Bill Dial and everyone just sort of forgot about Diggs in this new season. They just, oh yeah, there was that guy. It doesn't matter. Just get a new guy, something like that. So yeah, poor Diggs. We barely knew you.
At the same time, was the actor even championing to be back on the show?
I know.
Calling him up like, hey, you guys have been filming now for a couple of months and you haven't called me up to be Diggs.
I know. It's like,
he
he's very important. You got to have Diggs. What's going on?
Who's explaining stuff to the Sliders? Diggs is there.
Who's going to explain stuff now?
Yeah. But, it's cool. Quinn's in the bar. Colin shows up. He finds Quinn, but before he can actually speak to him, he gets dragged away.
Mm-hmm.
Mistaken for his alternate, what you call the Italian stallion, Quinn.
Yeah,
the Italian stallion Colin. Which is dead on, really.
Yeah.
Is this the first time we've seen an alt Colin?
Yeah, it is. And I'm just like, I don't know. Again, I know I keep beating the dead horse about this, but I wish that they would do more with Colin like they've done with all our other doubles. Like when we saw Alt Quinns, or Alt Wades or whatever, they do something to make them look different. Like they give him a wig, They change their appearance quite a bit. But with Colin, he just always has that hair. And I don't understand what it is about the hair. Like for the Italian stallion, maybe they could have I know they slicked it back, but it was still long in the back. Maybe they could have just trimmed it for that, so that it was it looked, less like our Colin, because our Colin has that very distinctive hairstyle. And I don't know why that bothers me. It just does, because it's hard for me to see Colin as anyone else with that hair for some reason. It's my thing.
Yeah, not to mention that they're changing out the accents of these alternates a lot, which is getting to be annoying. We saw it in the alternate Vilhara with the British rock star Quinn, and the stripper Maggie seemed like she was from Jersey with that Fran Drescher accent. So this time, let's just give him an Italian Bronx accent.
Yes.
For the sake of whatever.
Yeah, it's a stereotypical, Bronx accent. Nothing
I'm
special.
a free man,
yeah. I was like, hey, we're here. We're doing the Sliders Rewatch for you guys, It's like anybody, it's whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. So that irks me. The other thing that irks me, though, because Maggie and Remy show up at the Chandler, and they have their encounter with the guy at the front desk, and end up in Colin Mallory's room, because it turns out there's a Colin Mallory checked in, the alt. They go up to his room, and they're just like, when did he have time to buy all these clothes and get them monogrammed? And where did he get all this cash? And I'm like, okay, from the get-go, you are not putting two and two together here, are you? And then they actually run into the guy. I mean, sure, they don't speak to him a lot, but he's got, like, rings on, he's smoking, he's like, hey, Toots, what you doing, Toots?
Exactly.
And then gets hit by an ambulance, which I'm like, okay, I think what they're trying to do is, like, have him incapacitated so we can buy that they think this is their Colin.
Exactly.
But he spoke to them, the way he looks, the way he talked before he got hit by the ambulance. I was like, Remy and Maggie are not this stupid.
Right.
Come on. It takes them so long to realize their mistake. It's pathetic. I hated it.
Oh, yeah. No, I was like, man, come on. You should know. I mean, just with the accent alone, it's like, where would he pick that up? You know, and even just to be silly, you know, if he was just being goofy, he wouldn't go on that long. He would, you know, he would have lost it. So it was kind of like, come on. Plot contrivance.
Exactly.
Actually, I listened to this other podcast about the Flash, and they whenever something like that comes up, it's like they call it the evil supervillain plot device shows up. So that's right there. We've got plot device showing up, ruining things.
That's really funny. Yeah, so the whole thing on this world is that, you know, there are big corporations, and the corporations are joined usually through family marriage and stuff like that. Like, corporation and family are a big deal here. So it turns out that in this world, Colin's stepfather, who for some reason has the last name Mallory.
Yes.
I don't know.
That comes up in the messages in time, actually.
But he's the stepfather, and he and another company are merging through a marriage with a woman named Roxanne. Right. And Colin doesn't want to do it, but, you know, since they've mistaken our Colin, then Colin's going to go ahead and marry her, which I can understand. Like, Colin's not the best at trying to come up with a reason to get away.
Exactly.
He's too naive for that kind of stuff. So he's going to go through with it.
Oh, it was fine. I just figured, you know, he's kind of, like you said, he doesn't come up with the excuses right away. So he just sort of like goes from, they sort of push him from place to place and like, all right, you got to do this, got to do that. And he's like, okay. You know, like he's not quick on his feet.
I don't know. You know, I was really trying my best to come up with a reason why his stepfather had the last name Mallory.
Well, yeah, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, that's different. And I was like, no, that's his stepfather, not his real father. So how does he get the name Mallory? They theorize, like in the Messages in Time, where that comes from. And I can just mention it now. What they said was maybe on this world, maybe men take the women's name instead of the women taking the men's name. So when he got married to Colin's mother or whatever, he takes her name. I don't know. It could be. It's a good theory.
Well, at the same time, Mallory wouldn't be his mother's maiden name. That would be her married name. So
well, they
would say that, like, she kept her married name and then passed it on to her new husband?
Well, no, because if you think about it, remember, we just said, if this world, women keep their name, she could have been a Mallory all along. Like, she could have been born a Mallory. Okay. And then when she gets married, they just, you know, automatically, you know, take her name. So, yeah, if you base it on that premise, that the women always are the ones who keep their name and the men don't, it kind of works out. It kind of works out. I mean, it's not explained, so it's just a theory.
Well, that would mean that Colin's mother would have to be, I guess, the female version of their father in order to have the name Mallory, yet still be at least one parent and have the name Mallory.
Well, I was just thinking that it's like if the women are the ones who keep their name, it's like, let's say that her name is, you know, Joanne Mallory, whatever, and she gives birth to Colin. He's going to be Colin Mallory. And then whoever she marries will take her name. So she doesn't have to be a female version of the father, though.
Well, the name Mallory would come from the father's side, not the mother's side. Their mother's maiden name would be something completely different, not Mallory.
But wait, that's what we're saying, though. Like, if the mothers, in this world, maybe the mothers are the ones who keep the name and push it forward. Like, when you marry someone in this world, you just take the woman's name instead of the man.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Their father's name would be Mallory. So how did the mother end up with the name Mallory?
Well, no, that's what... Like,
she wouldn't have taken it from her husband. So where did the name Mallory come from?
Yeah, what I'm saying is the mother, her name, you know, Joanne Mallory, she just exists in this world. Like, she is just a Mallory, and there's no father Mallory. Like, there's no man. She just goes off with Joe Schmo and has a kid, you know. So she has a kid with Joe Schmo, and Joe Schmo disappears or whatever, goes off, and so Amanda Mallory is, you know, single again with her son Colin Mallory. So when she remarries with someone else, then that man just takes her name. So the stepfather becomes a Mallory as well now.
I don't know. It's just that the odds that if she was like a female Mallory, that she would also have a son who is Colin, rather than
it's not
as it would work. The father would have to get with the mother to make Colin, you know, like just that Colin would exist because she's a female or something. I don't know. I think we're going too deep into this.
We're going way deep. We're going way deep into it. But this is what we're here for.
Oh, God. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Let's just chalk it up to, it doesn't make sense that the stepfather has the name Mallory.
Exactly. Writer error, basically, is what the final consensus was.
Exactly. It should have been a different last name.
Yeah.
Quinn decides that he's going to go on Lipschitz because he can't find any of his friends. And his whole plan is to go on Lipschitz as a guest. He figures he can go on, he can tell his story of being a slider, and while he's on the set there, he can make an appeal to all of his friends to come down to the TV station so they can meet up. But he can't he can't get on there because they don't think his story has enough sex appeal.
Right.
He talks about like all the stuff that he's witnessed, including the female version of himself, and the woman asks if he ever had sex with her. Right. Which I think is a hilarious line, because I know that we kind of got all bent out of shape over the fact that they were kissing, and the fact that, you know, in order to get closer to Quinn, Logan came up with the idea of getting closer to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this is like the writers sort of poking fun at that in a little bit. Maybe even just calling out the fans in a way.
Yeah.
To say, we know you guys are out there. We know that you're thinking about this stuff. Just as we are here 20 years later doing that now. So I think I kind of like that.
It was funny to see Quinn on there next to someone else who claims to be a kind of slider, a pan-galactic traveler. And like just counteracting everything that Quinn says, you know, which is all, you know, we know works and is based on his science and everything, to have this other guy on there saying, well, that doesn't work. You don't even have an outfit. Now here's a timer. And it's like funny how he pulls out all these things. It's like, that was good. I like the interactions there between the two of them.
Yeah, again, I think this was another side character that they brought in, you know, as much as I like the front desk guy and the bartender, this pan-galactic traveler guy. I thought he was really good. You know, he even had his own little symbol that he did with his thumb and his pinky, and sort of did his little motion. I thought that was really funny.
It would have been neat to see him show up like in a future episode as an actual slider or someone else who had developed, you know, sliding.
On the other side, Remy and Maggie are at the hospital with the Italian stallion, and they just continue to be idiots.
It's like, come on. How do you not understand?
He fully wakes up. They have conversations with him. And they're just constantly going on about, like, where to get all these rings from? And I'm just like, what? Can we just get over this already?
Exactly.
Like, it's not until they see the TV and see that Colin got married to Roxanne.
Right.
That they're like, oh, we got the wrong guy.
Facepalm.
Like, oh, duh. Jeez, it really was. It was just the worst part of the episode. But
yeah,
the interaction with Colin and Roxanne, I thought was really good.
Yeah, that was really good.
That whole thing. I love that he sort of tries to explain to her what's going on.
Right. And
she comes around to it pretty quickly. You know, I like the character of Roxanne. I like the actress, actually. I've seen her in one other thing before. She was in an episode of Dawson's Creek, where she played this woman who shows up randomly, steals a bunch of booze for them, and they go home and tells scary stories. It's like a Halloween episode or something like that. But yeah, you know, she's kind of a perky character. I kind of liked her.
Yeah, she was good. I like, you know, I thought it was very believable because, like, she sees that Colin is, I mean, she's smart. She's much smarter than Remy and Maggie in this episode. She knows that this is not her Colin, but she doesn't even care. She's like, no, I'll marry you because, why wouldn't? I mean, you're a nice guy. You actually seem very polite and, friendly and just gentle, much different than, the Colin that she's supposed to marry. Because she was not happy about having to marry that Colin, Italian Stallion Colin, at all.
This whole idea of a corporate wedding, it's kind of like taking that whole theory of arranged marriage.
Yeah. Well, it's just like back in Greatfellas, when they have the two families come together.
Yeah, exactly. But I just think it was really interesting in the fact that they had to have like a group of lawyers come and witness the consummation as well.
Right.
Just to make sure that it's all legitimate.
Right. That's actually a common practice in some religion or something like that. I
Really?
forget. I didn't pay much attention to it, but I was like, oh, it's been done before. Okay. I forget what it said, but yeah, somewhere else in some other way that's part of it where they have to witness it.
And then the other gag of tying in Lipschitz with it as well,
Mm-hmm.
because he has one point where he says, oh, the big corporate wedding and we're going to cross to the consummation live. And then they cut to it and it's just like Roxanne banging her head on the door because Colin won't open it. Really funny stuff. I liked it.
Well, speaking of people being stupid, Alt Colin, Italian Stallion Colin is not the sharpest tool in the shed either. He didn't even begin to think that if Colin marries Roxanne, that, Italian Stallion Colin is not getting any of the money. I mean, come on, man. What were you expecting? Essentially you're out of the family then because Colin Prime takes your place.
Yeah, he didn't think this through.
No, he didn't.
At all.
No. I mean, it fits his character, because he doesn't seem like I said, he's not very smart.
But it all comes to a head. They've all seen Quinn on Lipschitz.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all heading out to find him. And it gets to the point, too, where Quinn's like, the countdown is really, I've got like a minute and a half left. I think I'm going to have to leave without my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all just show up gloriously.
Just in time.
Remy's just like, hey, don't go anywhere without us, cue ball.
I know.
So, yeah, I thought it was a good ending. And then, of course, like after they slide and, everyone's like, oh my God, it was true.
This episode, there was a lot of little in-jokes that I didn't really get. The biggest one, of course, was very obvious when Colin says that when they were going to the studio, we might buy that TV channel that shows all the sci-fi programming.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's obvious. But there were other ones that they dropped in there, other lines and references to a show called WKRP in Cincinnati. Do you know that show?
No.
It was an old sitcom, and I've watched it here and there. I haven't seen the whole run, but it's a pretty good sitcom back in the day. I think it was 70s, and it was about a radio station in Cincinnati called WKRP. And, of course, this station here I think was called KKRP. So that kind of goes along with it. But it was a pretty good show. There was a couple of people on there you might have recognized from other shows or other movies, like Howard Hessman. I don't know if you've recognized that name. He played one of the DJs, and the owner of the radio station was also someone I've seen in other, shows and whatnot. But apparently, I guess this has a tie to Bill Dial as well and David Peckinpah, if I remember correctly. They had worked on WKRP in Cincinnati as well, so that sort of is why they put those little references in there.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm. I didn't pick up on the references, but it's been mentioned, a number of times in a couple of reviews. It was mentioned in what iReaction sent us as well. So
overall, I think it was a bit of a fluff episode.
Definitely a fluff. That's why I said, like, at the end of it, I was like, man, nothing really happened or advanced really in this episode. I was just like, they're here and they're gone. I guess it's okay. It's okay to have those once in a while. Still, again, when you have that overarching storyline of the Cro-Mags, going on, these episodes just do seem a little bit like, well, maybe not placed in the best place.
Yeah, it's like a filler. Like we don't have enough story to sort of spread out the whole season, so let's just come up with this random thing to do. It's good to see Jerry O'Connell doing more acting in the more directing in the show.
Yeah.
I like that. He did the Slide Cage episode. And they've got him here, so he's coming into the directing a lot more. So I like that.
Yeah.
And it was good. It was a serviceable episode.
Yeah.
But like you said, doesn't really forward the plot. And now it's time for another episode of Words to Live By with Colin Mallory.
And while we're at it, I think we'll buy that channel that shows nothing but science fiction programming.
This has been another episode of Words to Live By with Colin Mallory. Alright, so getting into our second episode discussion today. The episode is Mother and Child, written by Richard Manning and directed by Helene Head. This originally aired December 7th of 1998.
Maggie, something's coming.
Chromax?
No. Looks more like a woman. She's alone.
Friends, don't touch him. It's okay. It's okay. Mommy's right here. Okay, we'll go back to sleep. Who are you? Where'd you come from?
I'm Quinn Mallory, and where we came from is kind of a long story.
Quinn Mallory?
Yeah, that's right.
Then you're Maggie.
How do you know who we are?
I'm Christina Griffin. Wade told me all about you guys. Wade? Yeah, your friend Wade. Wade Wells. You know Wade?
Where is she?
I don't know. We gotta get moving. They gotta know by now we've escaped. Escaped from what?
Chromag breeder camp.
As our sliders near the end of a slide, they run into a woman, Christina, and her baby, who just escaped from a Chromag breeder facility where Wade had been a prisoner as well. Overcoming a Chromag soldier, they managed to get Christina's homeworld coordinates and return to find that that world is free of Chromags due to an airborne virus that affects Chromags and thus will soon affect the baby. Christina's father, Jonathan, resists at first but eventually reveals there's an antidote to the virus which can save her baby. Unfortunately, the Chromag that fathered her baby has followed her, clad in a protective environmental suit. He calls for a truce so that they can get the antidote and save their child, taking Quinn and Maggie to the army base that Jonathan worked at. Using mind manipulation, they obtain the antidote and return to inoculate the baby, after which the Chromag betrays them, taking the baby and the serum so that they can be analyzed and studied so they can develop their own serum and eventually return to take over this world. Jonathan steps forward to stop him and is shot as Quinn and company help take down the Chromag, accidentally ripping his suit and exposing him to the virus, killing him but saving the baby. Christina then decides to slide with her crew, hoping to find a world where they can start fresh.
Are you certain it was a trans-dimensional vortex?
Yes, sir.
A court-martial will be convened to review this case.
All amenities will be observed. You'll have representation, a fair, unbiased hearing, then full military execution. It'll be very nice.
4 humans. 3 male, 1 female. They took the weapons off Unit 4, accessed the computer, and then with a primitive sliding device escaped to another dimension.
We received a dynasty directive about these humans earlier this year. We were ordered not to detain them, but now things have changed. They are now considered to be extremely dangerous and to be taken down by whatever means necessary. Something your troops are obviously not up to.
It's clear that they transported themselves back to the escapees' home world. With your permission, I'll take a commando unit to that world, recapture the breeder, and deal with the Sliders per dynasty directive.
Permission denied. No Chromag is permitted to return to that world under pain of death.
I know that, sir, but under the circumstances, I thought we might find a solution to the bigger problem as well.
I don't have the authority to override a dynasty directive. You're not to pursue anyone to that world. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Alright, so, the trivia for this episode. iReactions sent us like 6 emails with stuff.
There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and I kind of put some of it into the actual discussion where we can talk about it rather than here. Really, the only missing things from the script in here was that in the beginning we would see the Chromag searching for Christina more than what we saw. It was very short, so there was a little more extensive scene with that, and there's more with Remy being concerned about driving the Humvee through the vortex, which I don't know why he'd be concerned about, because they've taken vans through before.
Yeah.
So it's like, not a big deal, Remy. Have you forgotten?
It's been a while.
Yes. But now we do have, now this is not quite a quick impression, but we do have a scene from the episode that iReactions wrote that kind of fits at the very end of the episode, like after the episode. If they were to do a little tag ending, a way to deal with some of the, well, at least one of the big issues that a lot of people have with this episode, which we'll get into in the discussion. So that's what we have here. It's more of a missing scene rather than a quick impression.
Yeah, exactly. We're making time for this one. We don't care if we don't have time. We're going to do it anyway.
Exactly.
We're not going to be doing it as different characters either.
Right.
We're going to try and play this one a bit more straight. So I'm going to be Remy and you're going to be Quinn.
Yes.
Sound
I've got
good?
my flannel on and everything. Channeling my inner Quinn.
All right. So, cue the music.
Quinn sits in the Chandler bar, staring blankly at nothing. Rembrandt approaches.
Cue ball, you okay?
We didn't have enough time.
Quinn?
This is the 26th Cro-Mag world we've seen, and we're no closer to finding her. We never have enough time.
You know, man, I know.
I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know how I can keep searching for a world that I don't know how to get to, fighting a dynasty I can't even stand up to, looking for someone who might be better off dead.
Quinn, come with me, man.
Where?
Come on, cue ball. I want you to see something.
We fade to an outdoor location, Quinn and Rembrandt on a street. Rembrandt leads the way and stops. He points off camera.
Look over there.
What? From a distance, we see a slender girl with short red hair in a waitress uniform attending to an outdoor table at a cafe. We can't make out the face, but... Wade!
On some worlds, Wade and her sister open the Turning Treats Bakery and Internet Cafe. And they're branching out to LA. And you know Wade, even as a manager, she's down in the trenches with the staff.
Wade.
Anytime I see a Turning Treats in the book, I got a good chance of seeing Wade.
Quinn looks away. It's not her, it's her double.
Stop it, cue ball. You look at Wade over there, and you do whatever you have to do. Go up and say hi, and take her to the movies, or hang back here and watch. But whatever you do, you remind yourself of what you're fighting for. We can't give up. We can't ever give up. Not on our families, not on our world, and not on Wade. Not ever.
Rembrandt claps Quinn on the shoulder. Quinn stands still, looking across the street at his lost friend. And
scene. Now, that is an awesome bit of writing.
Yeah, that's really good.
Well done, iReactions.
Yeah, I wish that could have been in the episode because that would have helped.
I know, man. That's a tearjerker, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a scene that just makes you ecstatic, I think. If that was in there, I would have loved it.
That would have been a good way to, give her a nicer send-off.
Forget about Kelly.
Get away from the door.
He won't be able to help you. No one will.
And just why is that? You know, you've been waltzing around here. You gonna tell us what this is about?
Daddy.
During the war, our military research developed a virus that affected only Cro-Mag DNA. Very efficient, extremely fast-acting. 100% mortality. It permeates the atmosphere. That is why the Cro-Mags left. The baby being half Cro-Mag is obviously susceptible.
You mean he's dying? And there's nothing that we can do about it?
Well, there's gotta be an antidote.
No, being as it was designed not to affect humans,
You knew about this? And you didn't tell me?
All right, so getting into our discussion of mother and child. So, the gang are running from Cro-Mags out of some military base with only 45 minutes to slide, and they go to hide out. I like this introduction to the show, just getting into it. We're in the middle of it already, no need to set things up. We know the Cro-Mags, so they're just there. They're there. Hey, maybe they just slid in or something like that, and they just happen to be on the Cro-Mag base, and they need to get out. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
The fact is that we're in the middle of it, and we're trying to get away from the Cro-Mags. And it turns out that the base is a breeder camp. And while they're hiding out, this woman, Christina, has escaped. And she comes across them with her Humag baby.
Right.
We talked about the Hugh Mags last week and the training grounds. So what do you think this week of, like, an escaped woman with a Hugh Mag baby? Like, do you feel differently about the Hugh Mags now?
Well, definitely. You bring a baby into the mix, things change. It was a cool introduction. They, of course, right away, they introduce each other, so we get the names right away, which we don't always get. The one thing that I was confused about was she has this baby who is like 8 months old or so. I guess they say 8 or 9 months. And, like, has she been caring for this baby the whole time? Or when she escaped, she just happened to she went and found the baby and left?
It was a weird line where she says that the Cro-Mags let the mother, like, rear the baby for the first, like, 8 or 9 months before they take it away. And you're just like, why?
Yeah, a bit convenient,
Yeah, I mean, to them, these women are just broodmares,
Exactly.
So why do they need to keep them around? You think, a group of aliens that use these women nothing but to create more babies, and as many as possible, that, why would they let them actually hold on to the babies? You think they would take them away immediately to be raised or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's a bit of a plot contrivance, but at the same time, I'm kind of fine with it because I kind of like the idea that she has escaped. She has this... when she reveals the baby and Quinn looks at the baby and he goes, oh, it's a breeder camp. I didn't see a lot of Cro-Mag in that baby.
No.
Quite frankly, I don't think they did anything to the baby to make it look anything like a Cro-Mag. She does drop the line later that, it doesn't really such take on Cro-Mag attributes until they're about 2 or 3 or whatever. So I'm just like, so how did Quinn know that it was a breeder camp? I don't know. Maybe just jumped to that conclusion because of the fact that she had escaped from the Cro-Mag place with a baby.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But again, whatever. I don't really care because I kind of like the story that they're setting up here.
Mm-hmm.
Because this woman, Christina, knows Wade.
Yes.
This was where Wade was. Now, unfortunately, all the other women had been taken away. She escaped in the confusion of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, fortunately, she runs into our Sliders. And they want to go and look for Wade, regardless of the fact that Christina says she's not there.
Right.
But they don't have time either. So it just seems like everything is against them.
This was a big thing that even before, looking at other reviews and whatnot, when Quinn says that they don't have time to go save Wade, I was like, what? How can they not have time? I mean, this is, one of their closest friends. They've been with them through this. Remy and Quinn have been with Wade since the beginning. And when they finally get this close, they're this close. This is before we even know that Wade was gone. All we know is that Wade was there. Christina said Wade was there. And Remy says, we got to save her. And Quinn says, I don't know if we have time. You don't know if we have... What do you mean you don't know if we have time? I mean, that's your friend.
Yeah, exactly. It was a real sticking point for me in the episode, too. Or I was just like, what a stupid line.
Yeah, really, really bad. Well, even when you look at it, when you really pay attention to what's happening, and this is something that our reactions had brought up, that Jerry doesn't really deliver the line very well. This whole scene here, the whole thing, he's kind of not like putting his all into this episode. Now, our reactions goes back into what was going on in the Jerry O'Connell's world at the time they were doing this episode, and it does make a little bit of sense when you put it all together. He said at this time in his life, Jerry O'Connell and his brother were big drinkers. They were big into the sauce, and because of that, it led to I think Charlie was trying to deal with alcoholism. Jerry had some weight gain going on because of it. And because of this, they're not really into the episode how they have been before. So they don't sell their performances very well. It was like very, very casual. Even later when they come up against the actual Cro-Mag and they want information, Jerry, as Quinn says to the Cro-Mag, help us or die. Just like that, just very casual, just throws it off there. It's not like a very intense, like, you're going to help us or I'm going to kill you. It's not very intense, which I think if John Rhys Davies had been on the show still at this point, it would have been more intense because he's always been the one that sort of helped. He was like the mentor, not just as like the character, but as an actor himself, having done so much. He was the mentor, helping Jerry learn about how to really deliver, your lines and what you're trying to get across.
Yeah, and even before we got to this episode, I've been calling out some of the half-hearted nature of Jerry O'Connell's performance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is starting to come together a bit. You can see his interest waning in the show. And, of course, this is the last season for Jerry O'Connell and Charlie O'Connell. So, yeah, I can really start seeing this half-hearted performance, especially when you're tackling the issue of Wade. It's supposed to be, let's get in there, all guns blazing kind of stuff for every character, probably even Maggie.
Well, yeah, because, when you think about it, when you think, all right, you meet Christina, you meet this girl, and basically right now that however long she's been there, she has spent every day being constantly, I hate saying it, but constantly raped, by Cro-Mags in order to produce, Hugh-Mag babies. So it's like that, you can understand where the passion should have been here, the anger, and it's just not present.
It's all falling on Clavant. And he's doing a great job.
He's doing an amazing job, yeah.
Yeah, out of all of them, he's doing the best job.
When he learns Wade was there, you could tell he's like, what? She's here. You could see it in his face that he's like, we can save her, And then Quinn's just like, nope, we don't got enough time.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think maybe they're trying to keep the budget low as well, so I guess they could have written in a thing where they go and storm this breeder camp or whatever.
Right.
Maybe they didn't have the money for the set, so let's instead just do this thing where we lay a trap and this Humvee comes around and we just look them up in the system. Which was fine. It was serviceable, There's the whole thing about Remy saying, don't, no funny business, I read your language.
Right.
It was pretty good. The fact that the Cro-Mags can't look her up by name, only by serial number, was a pretty cool insight into it. So, yeah, it was fine. They kept cutting back to these other Cro-Mags at the base.
They were very angry, weren't they? They were just they were really over the top angry.
Man, and again, none of them get names, you know? Thank you, IMDb, for at least having them. Because we have, the main one was Commander Kreshaks. He's the short guy. And I don't know why they made the short guy the commander. Because the main guy, whose name is Corindos, apparently, is way tall and lords over him.
Right.
Yet Corindos kind of looks a bit goofy. I don't know, like he's not all there in the head or something. Yeah. I don't know.
No, I picked up on that too.
Yeah, they weren't the best Cro-Mags we've ever seen, by far. So the fact that, all this stuff is sort of leaning on these characters that are pretty terrible isn't working for me. Besides the fact that we're getting great performance out of Clavant, I think the actress playing Christina is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, these Cro-Mag characters are just,
Well, even the one that actually agrees to help him, it's I don't think the Cro-Mags would actually agree to help him, because if he just stays, he might die, if they, like he says, like Quinn says, help us or die. Maybe he's worried about his own, life. But I don't know, the way I saw the Cro-Mags is they wouldn't have cared about that. They would have said, oh, fine, kill me, because, the other Cro-Mags are coming, they're here, they're coming to get you. So I just didn't think he would actually help him.
Well, yeah, and later they have that scene with those Cro-Mags in the base there, and they sort of casually say, you will have a trial and you will be executed under the dynasty or something like that. It'll be glorious, It's they're trying to tell us that the Cro-Mags would actually love to have a big dynasty funeral to die for the dynasty's cause, rather than, divulge information about their operations and stuff like that. It's not gelling very well.
Right. In either case, they get Christina's home coordinates, and they also try to find out about Wade, but they get locked out. Firewall comes up,
Again,
virus
convenient.
Yeah, exactly. McAfee comes up. Right. Norton anti-security or whatever. So, they get locked out, and so they can't get any more information about Wade, and they just have to slide. So they slide in the whole Humvee, as the Cro-Mags are chasing them, which is fine. Like I said, it's happened before.
And they get anxious about it, but ultimately it always ends up to be fine.
Yeah, and they end up back at Christina's homeworld, which has no Cro-Mags anymore.
I kind of like this idea. The weapon that they developed against the Cro-Mags isn't a physical gun or something like that. It was a virus.
Yeah, it was a neat idea.
Yeah, and we kind of got this idea that this is what could have happened on Quinn's homeworld, because, they talk about how the females got mutated and couldn't have babies and whatever. So that's really what they're trying to lead us to believe, is that the weapon against the Cro-Mags is a virus.
Exactly.
This is the best way to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And they find Christina's father, Jonathan, and he finds out about the baby, but he doesn't reveal anything.
No.
He doesn't tell Christina anything. He kind of just doesn't like the fact that she brought this baby back with her.
Yeah.
And he's more than happy to let the baby die.
Well, he even says, take her back, take the baby back. And Quinn's like, no, we can't do that, which they could do because they can store coordinates. But I think he's just like, no, we're not taking it back.
Again, it's convenient that Jonathan works for, like, the DEA.
Right, yeah.
Or something like, whatever. Or the CIA, I don't know. Whoever it was. He works in some government agency, so he has access to this stuff.
Right.
So when Corindos shows up and reveals himself to be the baby daddy, I don't know. It's all very convoluted. It's all very convenient.
Right.
The fact that there is a cure for this virus, which, they come up with a good point at the beginning. They say, why would we need a cure? It targets Cro-Mags.
Right.
But for, I guess, fail-safe purposes, in case it does affect a human being, then we do have this. And you know where it's going to go. The Cro-Mag's going to go there. He's going to get it. He's going to betray them. And then they're going to come back and they're going to try and invade your world again. Like, that's the only place this can go. So, yeah, it is. It's all very cliched. I saw it all coming.
Well, what I really liked was the fact that in this episode, which they've established before the mental abilities of the Cro-Mags, which I thought was great. But there was that one episode we saw, was it Common Ground, where the guy shapeshifts? The Cro-Mag shapeshifts he turns his face into like a human face. That's what I remember thinking back then. We didn't know that the Cro-Mags could shapeshift. And I think it makes more sense that they don't shapeshift, but that they use their mental powers to change what people are seeing.
Right?
That's what I
Change
liked
your
about
perceptions.
this.
Yeah.
I wish they had done that back then in that episode too, because I always thought that was weird that they were suddenly shapeshifters when we know that they have all these mental powers. So why not use the mental powers that way? So I was glad they did that. Of course, the mental powers should not affect machines, but they do.
Yeah, this just, man, like, do they even think this stuff through? It's all well and good that, their mental abilities can make you see what they want you to see. So they see him as Jonathan.
Right.
He hands over a piece of paper, blank piece of paper, and says, look, this is my access card.
Right.
The woman takes it, she scans it, punches in the code, and the door opens. Like,
right.
If you need to scan it and punch in a code, then that blank piece of paper shouldn't have worked. It's ridiculous. Not to mention all the security cameras in there. Like, is he controlling what everybody sees, including the guys who are keeping an eye on the security cameras?
Right. True.
Because the footage should come back as just a Cro-Mag.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. It
I guess
makes no sense.
I guess you could say that he was controlling everyone. That's why he said he can't keep it up for long. Because he did make that statement. But yeah, the paper thing was like, what? Like, if they hadn't scanned it, or if she had said something like, your car's not scanning, but it's all right, I see it, we'll put in the number, that would have made a little more sense.
So I don't know, whatever. They get the antidote, they give it to the baby. Of course, Corindos betrays them, tries to take the baby with him, says, I know that this antidote was made for humans, but we'll derive our own cure from the baby's antibodies, and we'll come back and we'll invade your world again. I'm like, whoa, big surprise, whatever.
Yeah.
And Jonathan sacrifices himself to make sure that Corindos can't get away.
Right.
Which, again, I was like, whatever. The baby didn't have a name. So,
right.
Now he has a name. I'm going to call him Jonathan.
A bit cheesy, yes.
I really didn't like it.
Well, see, now here's the thing that I was thinking as well. iReactions mentioned that the way Jerry plays this end scene here, he accidentally rips the suit or pulls the breathing tube out.
Right, yeah.
It was like an accidental thing. But see, and this all plays into the whole emotional state of Jerry O'Connell and what, and how he's dealing with the show and his own issues. He said that it would have been much better if he had played Quinn as much more emotional from the get-go of this episode when he finds out about Wade. If they had just played it differently, and then building throughout the whole episode when he confronts the Cro-Mag about getting information, if he got a little bit out of control there, and then finally when you come to this end here where, the Cro-Mag's going to escape and ruin another world, where he said Quinn should just lose it here, and just rather than maybe not even Jonathan attacking, but maybe Quinn going crazy and attacking, and really getting onto the Cro-Mag and beating him up, and then purposely ripping the suit on purpose. That was iReaction's idea for to really build this up, because in his mind, of course, is Wade. He's lost Wade, and because she went on this adventure with him. So this whole thing, he said, should have played on Quinn's mind and really pushed him to be a lot angrier, a lot more emotional in this episode. But because of Jerry's personal issues, the performance wasn't there. He had a conversation, iReactions had a conversation with Matt Huttef over at Earth Prime, and I guess Matt was also saying that seems a little bit too violent for Quinn, which I think it does. It does seem a little bit violent for Quinn, because he's not that type of guy, just to lose control like that. But if there was something that was going to make him lose control, I think it could have been this issue that his friend has been taken and has been sexually violated for months now, day after day. This is what I think could have pushed him to that reaction.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Christina should have been a Wade proxy, and that Quinn should have been more involved with her. Instead,
Yes.
They've got Maggie sort of getting close with her and stuff
Which
like
was
that.
weird. That was weird.
Yeah, and Quinn and Colin really just coax through this episode.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even matter if they're here or not.
I know.
It's unsatisfying for, what is ostensibly a way of sort of helping us come to terms with what's happening to Wade.
Right.
It really is. It just falls apart. I really by the end of it, I just don't care.
Right.
I do not care what's going on at all.
Now, Zikri, apparently, again, we're getting from Temporal Flux's conversations, had ideas about how to deal with the whole Wade thing. He was trying to solve this, he was trying to, help the fans understand what happened. But of course, Dial and Peckinpah wouldn't have any of it, because, after all, Peckinpah's the one who got rid of Sabrina Lloyd. So they didn't really care about fixing this. They, the first one was the Dying Fields, where, Mark Zicree said we should do this and take care of the Wade problem. And then Mother and Child was the other one who said we should do this and take care of it. And they just didn't care to follow up on that at all. Which is too bad. Now, iReactions had some other ideas, which I wish had gone into play. If they can't solve the Wade problem, the way Zicree wanted to, iReactions said, what about if they had an idea where the rape camps were not really rape camps, but a place where the human women's just had their eggs harvested. So there wasn't the raping going on, which I thought that'd be a little bit better. That was a much better way to handle it.
Soften it out a bit.
Exactly. I mean, as much as you can. There was the other idea that I really liked was hearing on the radio, like they would hear a news thing on the radio on one of these worlds that said, Commander Wade Wells is fighting against the Cro-Mags somewhere, or her delivering a speech, like rallying people against the Cro-Mags. That would have at least given us the idea that, Wade escaped, just like Christina escaped, and now she's leading a revolution on some world somewhere. It would have made things a lot nicer, I think, for the character, a nicer end for the character.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
and I have to admit, I kind of like that they take Christina to a new world. I think this is the first time where they've taken a character with them to a new world, and I haven't been like, why'd you do that?
Right.
At least for her, she can be like, there's nothing left for me here. I need to go somewhere else. I
Right.
start a new life with my child, away from all this crazy Cro-Mag garbage.
True.
Like,
I guess
I can at least feel good that they did that for her.
See, when you put it that way, I guess I understand it. Because at first I was like, why would she leave? I mean, okay, her father's dead, understandable. But she has no other family or friends here because she grew up here. I understand her father and brothers are gone. But, it's still her world. This is where she grew up. It's what she knows. And she's got to have friends still around. There's got to be other family somewhere else that she could be with. I thought it was weird that, that she would just leave her world, because there's other things here that you can still have a tie to. But explain it like that and getting a fresh start. There's really, it's been so traumatic, you just want to start over again without all that trauma. I guess I get that. I guess so. But I mean, you don't know where you're going to end up though.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I kind of just saw it as like doing something good for the baby.
Right.
This Humag baby. Get the baby away from the Cro-Mags. Get her away from this world who has been invaded by the Cro-Mags, and just get a fresh start. The two of you together, have a go of it. So I can at least like that. But the rest of the episode, I just by the end, like it started so good, and then just blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Blah.
Well, we forgot to mention about the whole thing where the Cro-Mags say that they have new orders now. We forgot about this part. They have new orders to take out the Sliders because now, up till now, they've been tracking them, but now they've received new orders. They mentioned it specifically that now they're to take them out. They're considered dangerous, so we gotta kill them. I'm thinking like the big question that everyone asks is why. Even in Messages in Time, someone was asking about that. Like, why do they have to suddenly kill the Sliders? Before they didn't have to, but now they do. And I don't know, like, there's no reason ever given, it's not ever explained. In my mind, I'm just thinking maybe I said this before in the Slide Cage episode, that maybe since they turned the Slide Cage into like a boomerang, basically, to send you back, really, is there any way for them to get back home now? Is there any way for the Sliders or anybody to reach those coordinates? Because no matter what, if you put in those coordinates, you're going to be bounced back now. So maybe they figure there's no reason to track them anymore. And now since they're humans with sliding technology, we just kill them because we don't want them to have that technology.
Well, at the same time, Quinn is still going to try and get home.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it would benefit them to know where it is by tracking
definitely.
him. So, yeah. I don't know.
I just don't know how, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, how can they get home? Because the only way they could get home is if they had another way to get to another dimension not involving sliding, because every dimension has those coordinates. So however you get there, if you go through a sliding wormhole, the vortex, you're going to be bounced back. So you have to find another way to get to that dimension's coordinates not involving sliding. So like, I know they're going to still try to get home, but like doing it through sliding seems like it would be like you couldn't do it. It seems like you wouldn't be able to do it because of the coordinates. When those get entered in, the slide cage will just bounce you back out. So I don't know. There's no reason why they suddenly changed their minds, but that, in my mind, that's why they're doing it. I mean, maybe since I don't remember a lot of this season, maybe that'll be, invalidated later on, but that's
maybe
I don't remember, but that's how I'm, that's my opinion on it right now. There's a lot. I mean, everyone has their own opinion about why. It was on like I said, the Messages in Time. iReactions has his ideas. Everyone has their ideas about why it happens, but that's mine, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and I don't really remember either, so I guess we can just keep our fingers crossed that maybe something's going to come up soon.
Right. And
try and explain all this.
Like, there are a lot of good, like, iReactions does have a lot of good theories and stuff, and I'm hopefully he'll put those up on the forums if he hasn't already, because there's some good things, good food for thought on there to discuss and debate. So definitely, hopefully he'll put those ideas up there, because he had some other scenes. He wrote another scene involving Mary from the invasion episode, so we get to see her again. So he wrote a scene with her as well that could have been tacked on to this episode. And I hope he'll put that up there so you guys can check it out. We can't do every single scene in the podcast, but it was good. It was well written. So
yeah.
There's been a change of plans.
Where'd you get that? I frisked you.
You only saw what he wanted you to see.
Girl maggots. You never disappoint, do you?
I love trust. It's the one human convention so easily turned against its adherents.
You said you were doing this out of concern for your child.
I was telling the truth. With the antibodies from this child's blood and the rest of the serum, we may be able to synthesize enough of an antidote to immunize our entire army. So then we can return to this world and finish what we started. I wouldn't let anything happen to this precious, precious child.
Did you hear what Jonathan said? This serum was developed for humans. We're taking a chance it will have any effect at all on this baby.
Well, we'll observe that most carefully on our world from where he comes. And if the serum works, as we all hope, well, I know you've all had some experience with HUMAG soldiers in the past. I almost feel sorry for you, but Cro-Mags do not breed or reproduce through misguided adolescent sentiment. This child will be a warrior.
All right, well, let's get into some messages in time.
All right, so people agreed with us in this episode. There wasn't much for Colin to do in this episode. You know, less than Quinn. Quinn still had a little bit, but yeah, Colin was just sort of hanging around this episode. You know, Remy did nail it, they said. Good moments, but really he didn't have a lot to do either. You know, like he talked to the dad, he talked to Christina, but most of it, you know, he wasn't doing too much. A lot of it was with Maggie and her reactions to the baby and wanting to have a baby. It's like that came from out of nowhere. You know? Someone said that this Maggie wanting a child thing is kind of like Wade, how Wade came up with that you know, moment when she said, I want to have a baby. You know, it's like out of nowhere. You know, maybe they're trying to soften Maggie up to be like the new Wade, but it was kind of out of character for Maggie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they agreed with us. The blank card, nope, not going to work. They said, doesn't anybody remember the vortex needs extra power to take extra mass? You know, just like the original episodes, they said it was set for so many people, you know. But, you know, like I said, they've done it before. They've taken vans, they've taken people through, and it's been fine. So it's all good. And then the one guy was funny. He was like, how can the baby not have a name for the first, you know, 8 months, 9 months? What'd she call it? Hey, you.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby, come here. Like, what? I thought that was weird. They didn't have a name for it, you know? I agree. All right. So we got messages in time for Lipschitz. There was alt history, they noted. You know, there was a war between Guam and the U.S. Richard Nixon was respected in this alt history. So they really liked that. And then this one guy said, I really liked Colin's acting. And then someone else said, you know, I never thought I'd see good acting and Colin in the same sentence. Are you serious? You know. Hey,
yeah, that wonderful line delivery. I'm a free man. Yeah.
Or what was that other thing? I was raised by dolphins. Like, it's like, oh my god. Whatever. So now the Pan-Galactic Traveler, which I didn't notice this. I thought it looked kind of familiar, but the Pan-Galactic Traveler was apparently wearing the Future Boy costume from Quantum Leap. There was an episode of Quantum Leap where there was a children's TV show about the future, and there was a Captain Galaxy and Future Boy. And apparently the outfit that the Pan-Galactic Traveler is wearing is very much seems to be modeled after Future Boy, if not an exact copy, which I thought, oh, that's cool. It's a good little tie-in there. And they do have another tie-in to Quantum Leap as well, because we got Maggie Beckett, of course. The hero in Quantum Leap is Sam Beckett, so I don't know, maybe they're related. You never know. You know, probably not, but you can dream. Fanfic, you know. They agreed to the whole thing about the last name of the stepfather. We talked about that already. They said most likely it was probably just an error, you know, a writer trying to be clever, you know. And then they really liked the whole conversation about who has the bigger clicker. And Quinn says, I say that without a trace of male envy. And the guy's like, what? That was pretty good. I agree.
I think it was the best, probably the best stuff we've seen over these 2 episodes.
Yes.
With those 2 side characters at the channel.
Oh, yeah. They're great. You know, speaking of the side characters, while we were talking here, I had to look it up to see. Apparently, Sliders was Diggs' biggest thing. Like, just looking at his credits.
He's known for Sliders, right?
That's
the top of the page.
Yeah, he wrote a couple episodes of different things here and there. He was a voice in a video game, and then he had Sliders from 96 to 97. That season, he played, you know, of course, he played Diggs. But then after that, he was on an episode of NYPD Blue, and he was on something called My Sister's Keeper as a minister in 2010. And since then, there's nothing for him. So wow. Poor Diggs. Oh. We need a Sliders revival so that he can get back and get working again.
He can get some work.
Okay.
Well, let's check out some messages from Earth Prime.
All right. So now I'm just going to say, this is my opinion. Okay, my opinion doesn't reflect anyone else. I read reviews of from other websites and whatnot, and the review for Mother and Child on earthprime.com was written by Lloyd Quinto, writing from the point of view as a Cro-Mag. I forget what Cro-Mag name he used, but he used a Cro-Mag name, and he reviews the episode as a Cro-Mag. So it's very amusing, because he's talking about the glory of the, Cro-Mag dynasty and everything like that. And it's very good, very well done. I thought it was funny. However, I got to call him out on the ending of the review. He says at the end, again, he's acting as a Cro-Mag, so I can understand what they're trying to do here. I just didn't really like it, because he says at the end, I really, I, the Cro-Mag, really love this episode. In fact, I loved Wade Wells several times a day, over months, in fact. And I was like, come on, no, I don't want to, it went a little bit too far, I think, for me.
Yeah, it's rubbing salt in the wounds, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's just again, just my opinion, but I think we could have done without that little line there, because we don't want to think about, this beloved character in that way. So it bugs me a little bit. That bugged me a little bit there.
Yeah, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Because it does at least sound like an interesting premise.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a new iTunes review, however.
Ooh,
so, yeah,
awesome.
Pretty cool. We've got a review from Seamus Ryder Jetfire Kelly, who says, you're going to love rewatching. The Rewatch podcast is nothing short of brilliant. Tom and Cory really know their stuff on Sliders and have put together a fantastic package about everyone's favorite interdimensional heroes, Sliders. You may be reading this review and wondering if this podcast is worth your time. Are these guys worth devoting over an hour to every week? Yes and yes. If you have any love for Sliders, this podcast will not only entertain, but make you think back on the episodes with a new eye. A lot of Sliders is fairly bad, yes, but these guys make even the worst episodes worth rewatching. Just download the whole run, sit back, and get to sliding. Unless you're a blistering idiot, then this podcast probably isn't for you. Keep on rocking, guys. I like that.
I love it. That's great. That's great. Yeah, we often comment after we record that, oh man, we went like an hour and a half.
Yes.
Like even after I edited it down, I put in clips and stuff, it's still like an hour and a half long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we'd like to get deep into it, and I'm glad that at least Seamus doesn't mind sticking around for more than an hour to listen to us talk about Sliders.
Exactly. Especially when we talk about women taking the men's name and men taking the men's name. We go far into that more than we should.
But thanks for the review. We really appreciate it, and yeah, we'll give out our information in a moment, but yeah, we really appreciate iTunes reviews.
Yep.
Okay, so next week, the next two episodes we'll be discussing are Net Worth and Slide by Wire. Again, I've got no idea what these episodes are.
Yeah, I don't remember these at all.
Nope.
But
we're
we'll
really
find
getting
out.
into... Yeah, forgetful territory,
Exactly.
even for me.
All right, well, that is it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. And you can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as Dimension of Continuity, earthprime.com, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message and send it to therewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And if you would be so kind, just like Seamus has done, consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. 5-star ratings and a good review really help out the show, helps draw people in, and helps build up our messages from Earth Prime segment, because we love to hear from you guys. So thank you very much. And thank you for joining me again this week, Tom.
Of course.
And I will just say until next time, look, we've got no rooms, we've got no suites, we've got no ice. I haven't seen any of your friends. And no, you can't leave a message for them.
Okay, we gotta slide.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Copyright 2015, The Rewatch Podcast.